Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into cybersecurity, and wow, have we got some fascinating stuff to cover.
Sounds exciting.
We've got blog posts from AWS and Cloudflare, analyses from Bitdefender and the SANS Institute, and even reports on the future of cybersecurity in space.
In space. That's pretty far out there, isn't it?
You know it.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to equip you with all the intel you need to navigate the ever-changing landscape of cyber threats, whether you're a tech whiz or just trying to stay safe online.
I think it's so interesting how we tend to think about cybersecurity as something like limited to our computers and networks. But the truth is, as our tech keeps expanding, so does the potential for attacks. And nowhere is that more obvious than, like you said, in space.
Exactly. And this white paper, The Convergence of Space and Cyber, an Evolving Threat Landscape, dives right into that, doesn't it? Like, it's not just about launching satellites anymore. It's also about protecting them from this whole new world of cyber threats.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're seeing this new kind of space race, right, where nations are really focused on, well, establishing a military presence in orbit. But a lot of people don't realize that this push for dominance also creates a huge vulnerability. Earth's orbit, which is packed with satellites, controlling communication, navigation. It's becoming a prime target.
Right.
Imagine the chaos if a crucial satellite network went down from a cyber attack. It could disrupt, everything. Global communications, financial transactions, military operations, everything.
Yeah. It really makes you think, something as intangible as a cyber attack could have such a real-world impact on these systems we rely on every single day. That's pretty mind-blowing.
The potential consequences are just massive. That's why understanding the motivations behind these attacks is so crucial. It's not always about causing disruption. Sometimes it's about strategic advantage, crippling infrastructure, stealing sensitive data. And as we keep venturing further into space, the stakes only get higher.
Absolutely. The white paper even talks about the next stage of space exploration, like moon bases, asteroid mining, missions to other planets. What kind of cybersecurity challenges do you think we'll be facing in those scenarios? That sounds wild.
That's when things get really interesting. Imagine a lunar base hacked, cutting off communication with Earth, or a rogue nation taking control of, say, an asteroid mining operation. It's not impossible. Sabotage, espionage, warfare in space. It's a real concern.
It's not just science fiction anymore. It's a very real possibility and one that we need to prepare for. But what are we actually doing to address these emerging threats? What's out there?
Well, thankfully, we're not just sitting around waiting for disaster to strike. There are some proactive efforts underway to develop frameworks and strategies for space cybersecurity, like the Sparta framework, for example. It stands for Space Attack Research and Tactic Analysis. And it focuses on, understanding attack patterns and vulnerabilities, basically so we can develop effective defenses.
Right.
It's about anticipating threats.
Right.
And building systems that can withstand attacks.
So it's like they're trying to stay one step ahead of the game, always thinking ahead.
Exactly.
Are there any other initiatives you think our listeners should know about?
Well, there are conferences like Defense Base 24. They bring together experts from, government, military, and the private sector to discuss these evolving threats. It's a recognition that this is a global issue that requires, international collaboration.
Right.
In fact, the U.S. Space Command is already integrating cybersecurity into its operations. Recognizing that protecting assets in space is just as important as protecting traditional military infrastructure.
It seems like there's a real sense of urgency to get this right. The implications of a successful cyber attack in space, those could be catastrophic.
Oh, absolutely. We're on the brink of this new era of space exploration. And cybersecurity needs to be at the forefront of our planning. It's not a question of if, but when these attacks will happen. And we need to be prepared.
Yeah, it's a scary thought for sure, all these cyber threats in space. But let's bring it back down to Earth for a minute. Even with all this stuff happening in space, cyber criminals are still finding ways to, target us right here at home.
Absolutely. Cybercrime is always evolving. And one of the most concerning things we're seeing is how sophisticated these phishing attacks are getting.
Right.
We're not talking about those old school Nigerian print emails anymore.
Right.
This is next level stuff, highly targeted, designed to trick even the most tech savvy people.
That analysis from Bitdefender about the Lazarus Group's LinkedIn scam was pretty wild. Targeting professionals, in aviation, defense, nuclear energy with fake job offers, that's just crazy.
It's a good example of how good cyber criminals are getting at social engineering. They exploit our trust, our hopes, to get
Actually,
sensitive information.
yeah.
These scams are so carefully crafted. They look totally legit, using language, imagery, everything. And, they're not just after your credit card number or something.
That's what's so scary.
Bitdefender mentions that these attacks are often state-sponsored. Their goal, to steal classified information, proprietary technologies, corporate credentials.
Mm-hmm.
It's espionage, but on a whole new level.
It's like something straight out of a spy movie.
The Lazarus Group, for example. They're believed to be backed by the North Korean government. And their attacks are insanely complex. They use multi-layered Python scripts, .NET binaries, to disable security tools, evade detection. It's wild.
It's like they're always one step ahead.
And it gets even more complicated. They use a mix of HTTP, Tor, attacker-controlled IPs to steal data. It's like a multi-pronged attack designed for maximum damage and minimal risk of getting caught.
So what can we do to protect ourselves? It feels like we're always playing catch-up.
Honestly, awareness is key. Be skeptical. Even if a message looks like it's from a legitimate source,
Right.
verify job offers, look closely at email addresses, and never ever click on links or download files from sources you don't trust.
So it's like we have to become digital detectives.
Pretty much. And remember, these attack vectors are constantly changing. Take the SANS Institute, for example. They've been tracking this rise of com prefix domain phishing.
You mean where they register domains that look almost the same as legitimate sites?
Exactly. Like com Amazon instead of Amazon.com to trick people into giving up their login info.
Yeah, that's pretty sneaky.
What's really alarming is just how many of these domains are out there. The SANS Institute found thousands, and a lot of them were already on PhishTank, that database of known phishing sites.
So even if we're careful, we could still get tricked if we're not paying attention to the details.
Right.
Is there anything we can do to proactively protect ourselves?
Yeah, definitely. One thing you can do is monitor your DNS logs. They keep track of every domain your computer tries to access. They can show if you've been targeted by a phishing site, even if you didn't click anything. It's a way to spot suspicious activity before anything bad happens.
That's a good tip. I'll have to check that out. At least there are ways to fight back, even as these cyber threats keep getting more sophisticated.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It does feel like we're in this constant battle. But hey, at least there's some good news too, right? The cybersecurity industry is really stepping up to fight these threats.
Yeah, I think so. We're seeing some encouraging stuff like Cloudflare, for example. Their blog post talks about all these security certifications they're going for. FedRAMP High, IRAP, ENS. And those are not easy to get. It means they're really committed to meeting some seriously tough security standards.
Yeah, that's a good point. It shows they're really going above and beyond, especially for protecting, sensitive data.
Definitely. And what's really cool is that Cloudflare is using this single platform approach. You know what I mean?
They're not creating separate systems for different levels of security. They're building strong security into their main platform so everyone can benefit, whether you're a government agency or just a regular person.
So they're basically saying cybersecurity should be for everyone, not just the big players, right?
Right. And they're also expanding into international data centers and investing in post-quantum cryptography.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. What's the significance of all that? I mean, expanding globally makes sense, but post-quantum cryptography, that sounds pretty futuristic.
Just shows they're thinking ahead, anticipating future threats. Expanding globally helps ensure data security, no matter where the attack comes from. And post-quantum cryptography, well, that's about preparing for the future of computing.
Okay, I'm kind of lost there. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. Quantum computers, they're super powerful, and they could potentially break a lot of the encryption we use today. So our sensitive data, financial stuff, even national secrets could be at risk.
Wow, that's a bit scary, isn't it?
Yeah, so post-quantum cryptography is all about developing new encryption methods, ones that can withstand, these super powerful quantum computers. It's like future-proofing our security.
It sounds like we need to get on that pretty quickly. And Cloudflare's not alone, right? AWS is also doing some cool stuff, renewing their MTCS Level 3 certification, expanding their security coverage.
Yeah, it definitely shows the industry is taking all this seriously. MTCS Level 3 is the highest standard for cloud security. So it means AWS is meeting some pretty strict requirements for data protection, especially for sensitive industries like, finance and healthcare. And by expanding their security coverage, they're making sure their whole platform is secure.
It's good to know these companies are investing so much in security. But we can't forget about another big issue, the cybersecurity skills gap. That Fortinet article brought that up. We just don't have enough skilled people to fight all these threats.
Totally. It's a huge problem. We need more cybersecurity professionals,
Yeah.
but there aren't enough. And, as tech gets more advanced, that gap just keeps getting wider.
That article talked about how certifications can help.
Right.
They can help people stand out, show employers they have the skills to protect against these threats.
Exactly. Certifications like the Fortinet Network Security Expert Program, for instance, they're like a standardized way to prove you have the skills. And it gives people a way to upskill, advance their careers. It's about giving them the knowledge and tools they need to actually make a difference.
So it seems like everything is connected, right? The threats in space, the need for skilled people here on Earth. It all comes back to cybersecurity. It's such a complex challenge, and it really needs a proactive approach.
I agree. We can't just wait for things to happen. We have to be prepared.
We've covered so much today. It's been a wild ride. From the threats in space to those super sneaky cyber criminals, and of course what the industry is doing to fight back. But I think the most important thing to remember is that cybersecurity isn't just a tech issue anymore. It affects all of us, from national security to our everyday lives. And as technology keeps advancing, the only way to stay safe is to stay informed, stay vigilant.
I think that's great advice. We can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend this isn't happening.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. And remember, the conversation doesn't stop here. Keep learning, keep exploring, and stay safe out there.